It's a good scene, yeah? We see this burden lifted in the act of forgiving. The release of that burden had just gone. Could you see it just in the way he carried himself? So how are we meant to act? Well, forgiving someone can be hard, especially when you feel that you are in the right. And if we know anything about humanity, we know that we are all always in the right, don't we? We're always in the right about something. Yet Jesus uses this parable to explain to people why it is so necessary and what happens, the consequences of what happens if you're not adhering to it. Simply saying, I forgive you, is not enough if it causes resentment in your heart. The parable explores the king dismissing the debt of his servant, who owed him thousands of pounds. The servant was in the position of losing his family to settle the debt, and in the desperation of his plea, the king took pity and cancelled the debt. And verses 26 and 27 say this: At this the servant fell on his knees before him. Be patient with me, he begged, and I will pay everything. The servant's master took pity on him, cancelled the debt, and let him go. The king realised that the debt could never be repaid by the servant, as it would take several lifetimes to repay. And that is the point. God is like the king to us. He recognises the debt of our sin is too much for us to pay back, and instead he wiped the slate clean through his son. However, this is not the point of this story. The mercy of the king was not the point. Instead, Jesus continues to explain that the same man who was shown kindness did not display that mercy on a man who owed him money. He had not learnt the value of forgiveness. You cannot simply do lip service and not change your actions. People have forgiven me for things I have done wrong in the past, and I have forgiven those who have upset me. Has it been easy? No. Has it helped me grow as a person, as a Christian? I'd like to think so. Will I still make mistakes? Probably. But forgive us. Forgive us. Forgiving someone or being forgiven is so important in our Christian journey. It is what sets us apart from the greed and challenges of life. And General Coates, in his commentary on this chapter, says, the willingness to forgive is often the one hope of remedying unhappy relationships. How many difficult situations, even within the Christian church, wait for just one who will say the first gentle word? Will you be that first gentle word in forgiving someone today? Have you been holding on to a grudge for a long time and need to bring that burden to God? Jesus says at the beginning of this parable, in his response to Peter's question, then Peter came to Jesus and asked, Lord, how many times shall I forgive my brother or sister who has sinned against me? Up to 7 times? Jesus answered, I tell you, not 7, but 77 times. This is not an excuse, however, to create situations to be forgiven for. That doesn't give you a free pass to just do what you want. But Jesus is explaining that God, like the king in the parable, has recognised our debt and has forgiven us. So we need to do the same for others. We need to be the first gentle word. So as we reflect on God's word today, we're going to share in a song which says, I will offer up my life in spirit and truth. Throughout Jesus' teaching, we are given tools to live by, and we're going to take time today to consider how forgiveness works and to offer ourselves as examples of his compassion. If you're using the songbook, it's Song 300